Krishna Prestaya Utame Srimate Bhakti Vedantam Swami Vishnu Padaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Sesha Nyavadi Ashtatari Sutari Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Sesha Sunyavadi Ashtatari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gauravecta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gauravecta Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Krishna. Good evening, everybody. Hare Krishna, Asika. So we'll begin this evening with a song, and this is a song about Vinod Thakur, and it's known as Shuddha Bhakti. I hope that Asika and the Prabhu got the message, and we can have this song online, so you can join in with us. There it is. Good, thank you. This is a song of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, where he's talking about pure devotional service and the results of pure devotional service. And it's not just the mechanics of it. In pure devotional service, there's different stages. He's taking us also to the realm of, you could say, where one's natural emotions evolve just in coming in contact with pure devotional service. Something to aspire for, something to work towards. But tonight this evening, if Krishna wills, we'll be touching a little bit on the subject matter of Ananya Bhakti, as we mentioned last time. This subject of unalloyed, undeviated, uninterrupted, pure devotional service. and the effects which are felt at different stages. So this song, more in all levels, but especially the level of the effects of just hearing the sounds of the Mridanga drum. It's not just about playing it. The effects are felt in the heart. Spontaneous loving attraction for Krishna. And the heart becomes fully enriched in pure loving emotions. We'll sing the song first and discuss why. If anyone can play Mridanga, please bring the Mridanga. Buddha Bhakata Charana Re Ajana Anukuna Buddha Bhakata Charana Re Bhajana Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalatika Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalatika Madhavati Bhakti Janani Janane Palana Kori Madhavati Bhakti Janani Janane Palana Kori Krishna Pasati Bori Parama Are Bori Krishna Pasati Bori Parama Are Bori Gauramara Sabastani Kavalo Brahmana Sanghe Gauramara Sabastani Kavalo Brahmana Sanghe Sabastana Here Boami Kanai Bhakata Sanghe Sabastana Evigo Ami Pranay Bhakata Sangha Madanga Bhata Shnite Ma Avasara Sadajate Namaraja Shnite Mana Avasara Sadajate Gora Pihita Kitana Shuri Anande Vidoyanate Gora Pihita Kitana Shuri Anande Vidoyanate Yugala Murti Dekiya Mor Parama Ananda Yugala Murti Vidya-mora Paramananda Prasad Seva Karite Hoya Sakala Prapancha Jaya Prasad Seva Karite Hoya Sakala Prapancha Jaya Yedina Grihe Bhajanna Devi Grihete Goro Prabhaya Yedina Grihe Bhajanna Devi Grihete Goro Prabhaya Charana Sidhu Dekhiya Ganga Sukata Sima Paya Charana Sidhu Likhiya Ganga Sukasasi Mapaya Tulasi Deki Duraya Pan Madhavakoshan Jani Madhava Madhavakoshan Jani Gora Priya Shaka Sevani Jivana Starta Kamani Gora Priya Shaka Sevani Jivana Starta Kamani Bhakti Vinoda Krishna Bhajane Anukula Payaya Krishna Bhajane Anukula Payaya Pratinivaste Paramasuke Vikara Karo Yeta Pratinivaste Paramasuke Vikara Karo Yeta Surabhakata Sharanare Bhajana Anukula Surabhakata Sharanare Bhajana Anukula Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karumula Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karumula Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Satar Atashre Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. You can put the screen on if you want. Amanta Koda Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Shahidasa Thakur Ki Prem Sigaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasri Gopaktivinoda Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhani Shri Vrindavan Dham, Shri Mayapur Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham, Ganga Mayaki, Jamuna Mayaki, Tulasi Devaki, Bhakti Devaki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrindaki, Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtanam, Prihat Madanga Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glorious to the assembly. All glorious to the assembly. Glorious to Shri Guru. All glorious to Shri Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Hridaya Krishna Stad. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati. Gauravani Pachari. Nirvasesha Shunyavadi. Ashtacharya Shita. Jai Shri. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanenu Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Prabhupada. Just a quick second. The workaways have a class at 7. Yes. You're good. That's nice. Encourage them. That's very important. So we're going to read tonight from the 3rd canto, chapter 25, text 22. Same like we did a few days ago, a week or so ago. So if we can have the verse on the screen, please. 3:25:22. Lord Kapila Dev is now teaching or giving teachings to all of us through his mother, so that we can understand the questions which Devahuti has asked, relevant questions, which basically apply to all of us. We're all trapped in this illusionist material world, entangled in action and reaction with so many material desires, whatever our birth may be. We're all covered by various degrees of lust and anger and greed and so on. So she's asking questions predominantly on our behalf, and Lord Kapila Dev is answering, so we can get the proper process of how we can transform, how we can change our hearts. So this is text 22, right? All these verses here are very significant, full of various instructions. So this, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Mayananyena bhavena. Anyena bhavena. Bhaktim Kuravanti Edridam.
Bhaktim Kurvanti Edridam.
Matkrite Tyakta Karmanas.
Makrite Tyakta Karmana.
Tyakta Svajana Bandavaha.
Tyakta Svajana Bandava.
Mayananyena bhavena.
Yanyanyena Bhave.
Bhaktim Kuravanti Edridam.
Bhaktim Kurvanti Edridam.
Matkrite Tyakta Karmanas.
Makrite Tyakta Karmana.
Tyakta Svajana Bandavaha.
Tyakta Svajana Bandava.
Word for word. Mai, unto me. Ananya Bhavena, with undivided, undeviated mind.
Undeviated mind.
Bhaktim,
Bhaktim.
devotional service.
Devotional service.
Kurvanti,
Kurvanti.
perform.
Perform.
Yea,
Yea.
those who.
Those who.
Dridham,
Dridham.
staunch.
Staunch.
Matkrite,
Matkrite.
for my sake.
For my sake.
Chakta,
Chakta.
renounced.
Renounced.
Karmana,
Karmana.
activities.
Activity.
Chakta,
Chakta.
renounced.
Renounced.
Svajana,
Bhajana.
Svajana, family relationships.
Family relationships.
Bandavaha,
Bandava.
friendly acquaintances.
Friendly acquaintance.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. And Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse in the purport. A person in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi, is also called a sadhu. Why? Because he renounces everything. His home, his comfort, his friends, his relatives, and his duties to friends and family. He renounces everything for the sake of the Supreme Personality of God. A sannyasi is generally in the renounced order of life. But his renunciation will be successful only when his energy is employed in the service of the Lord. Engaged in the service of the Lord with great austerity. It is said here, therefore, Bhaktim Kurvati Yegridam. A person who seriously engages in the service of the Lord and is in the renounced order of life is a sadhu. A sadhu is one who has given up all responsibility to society, family, and worldly humanitarianism, simply for the service of the Lord. As soon as he takes his birth in this world, a person has so many responsibilities and obligations to the public, to the demigods, to the great sages, to the general living beings, to his parents, to the family forefathers, and so many others. When he gives up all such obligations for the sake of the service of the Supreme Lord, he is not punished for such renunciation of obligation. But if for sense gratification, a person renounces all such obligations, he is punished by the law of nature. It's the end. I think that's the end of the purport.
Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna. So in this verse, as we mentioned last time, we could look at it from different angles. Last time we did a little bit, looked at it from the, say, some of the secondary aspects of a sadhu in terms of their interaction with the material world. And particularly, we discussed the characteristics of a sadhu in the previous class a little bit, They are very tolerant and merciful and friendly to all living entities, etc. And has no enemies, is peaceful. All this is seen, you could say, from a material external perspective. But in the real sadhu, it's based on their internal. It's not just something which is just an external behavior pattern, but it's a manifestation of their internal purity. So the sadhu has externally, he has his characteristics, tatastha, marginal secondary characteristics in regards to the qualities of Lakshana, in regards to interacting with this world that we're in. But then there are the internal the Srup Lakshana, which is also mentioned in this verse, in the first line, Mayanya Nyena Bhavena Bhakti. This undeviated, pure, unalloyed, undeviated devotion and service to the Lord. That, of course, is not something that can be manifested by behavior. The behavior which we try to practice ourselves is meant to help us to awaken that inner characteristic, that natural quality of the soul, as we heard last week, I think. Yes, Yasti Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana Banai Savatapta Samasata Suro. That those who are actually fully engaged in devotional service, all the good qualities of the demigods automatically manifest because they're fully engaged in devotional service. We also heard from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita how even if one appears from the external point of view to have some shortcomings, even sometimes misbehavior, it is that one quality of unalloyed devotion or fixation on Krishna is the main prominent characteristic. One is still considered saintly. We could say this verse is specifically describing those who are still, to some extent, we could say, are still in relationship with this material world. So we're going to be dealing with that and then trying to go a little bit further of unalloyed devotional service at different stages, how it interprets in terms of our own lives, etc. I'm not 100% sure I'll be able to get this in some kind of chronological order for various reasons, but we'll do what we can to try to see what we can imbibe for our own spiritual lives, our own spiritual benefits from this particular aspect of the teaching of Lord Kapila Dev. Yes, we can recognize the characteristic of a sadhu, and that's pretty important. Otherwise, we may misunderstand who is a sadhu and who is a sadhu. And we're meant to approach sadhus as being the main, practically the only way, according to Narottam Dasha, Ishtaraparichakeva, only by serving the devotees of the Lord can one attain to pure devotional service or attain to spiritual life, the spiritual world. It's not possible to go back to Godhead without service to the pure devotees of the Lord. As this verse or this song which we just heard from Bhakti Vinod Thakur, describing all that which is favorable for the awakening of internal devotion. So it's not just external imposition, some institutional behavior, but rather the internal awakening of our love for Krishna. This is the ultimate objective, we could say, from our position of the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev, to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. And that is evoked, as we heard a few weeks ago, is the key to that is association. At every stage of our devotional service, association with the devotees is most important. And that means with devotees, it doesn't just mean on a social level. Those who are engaged in unalloyed devotional service, they're actually fixed in their service. We need that association to transform our hearts because we have a tendency to be alloyed, not unalloyed. We have a tendency to veer towards mixed devotional service, mixing in our already existing concepts, our already existing narratives, our already existing desires, etc., and mixing them in with the ingredient of pure devotion. So we get a mixed result. It's a very simple thing. If you have pure water and you mix something in it, it's no longer pure water. Although water by nature is pure. Devotional service means pure in its real sense. And we do hear from Lord Kapila Dev later on, different types of mixed devotional services are there, no doubt. But the objective of all of this is to come to pure, unalloyed devotional service, or Vittiyata, Yatna Suprasidati. Only this pure, unalloyed devotional service can satisfy the soul. Mixed devotional service may have some temporary relief to the mind. It may have, no doubt, some benefits in terms of our long-term progress towards our ultimate goal. But in itself, it will not completely satisfy the self. Neither will it ignite the fire within others' hearts. It may have some interest beginning. It may give some encouragement. But to ignite the fire, the blazing fire of devotional service within the heart, which burns up, if you give me that 6th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. For instance, we have this beautiful verse in the 6th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. This is in the 6th canto, chapter 1, text 15. It's a very famous verse. It's regarding the life or the history of Ajamil. And in this particular verse, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Vagamdan Tvastikasyena Niharamiva Vaskaraha. Says only a rare person, rare, very rare, who is adopted, and we've got it on the screen. Can you go up with the word for word for a minute there, please, as you have it on the screen? There's some beautiful words there. Look at the top. Very first line. Kevalaya Bhaktya. Okay, by executing unalloyed devotional service. Very rare. Some people, not many. Prabhupada describes this means very few. As we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam Sahasreshu Kastujatati Siddhaya. It's very rare that somebody understands Krishna in full. And as we all know, it's devotional service, which is the means to understand Krishna, because understanding Krishna means Krishna reveals himself. It's not a question of mechanically understanding him. It's not possible. It's only when Krishna reveals, as they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. When Krishna reveals himself from within the heart. So the process is very rare that somebody is on that platform. So we need that association. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. Somebody who's Vasudeva Prayana, who is executing unalloyed devotional service. Pure Bhakti. Vasudeva to Lord Krishna, the all-pervading Supreme Personality. Prayana, completely attached, without any dependence on anything else. So this is a high level. It's very rare we find such a person, but this is the sort of person we have to associate with. Completely attached, only to such service without dependence on austerity, penance, cultivation, and not. Again, it's similar to our description given by Rupa Goswami of pure devotional service and Yavilasatashi, Jnana Kamanjana, Krishna. The pure devotional service is devoid of all these other objectives. The only objective of pure devotional service is to please the senses of Krishna. And our devotee, as we saw in the song, accepts only that which is favorable for pleasing Krishna and ultimately pleasing the soul, not just pleasing Krishna. But people may not understand that, but by pleasing Krishna, one pleases the soul. By pleasing the stomach, the whole body is nourished. Watering the root of a tree, the whole tree is actually nourished. So by pleasing Krishna, everyone becomes pleased. That's the idea. So for such a person who's engaging, executing unalloyed devotional service, and we'll get onto that in a minute, but you can see there, Dundavanti destroys. What does it destroy? Agam. Aga. We have the Agasura, the sinful demon. All kinds of sinful reactions are destroyed, just like Kachnyena. Completely without any opportunity of them being revived. Niharam, fog. Clears the fog. What clears the fog? Bhaskara, the sun. When the sun rises, Prabhupada gives the example in the night. At the twilight in the morning, we get the sun rises, but there may be some mist or fog. We can't see the clear sun yet. It's kind of light, but it's not really light. It's not complete light, but there is light. The darkness at night is going away. And we're beginning to see things for what they are. Although it's still misty, a little foggy. The sun rises, gradually as the sun rises, all the mist is dissipated. The science of devotional service is to stay in the sun. Even if it's a little misty, stay in the sun, and the mist will be evaporated or removed by the presence of the sun, Krishna, Surya, Sam, Maya, and Akara. Where there is Krishna, there cannot be darkness. So this is the science of pure devotional service. Means literally to always keep in the sun. And the translation of this verse is nice. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful action with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Bring the nectar of instruction, please. Nectar of instruction. We've already discussed a little bit about this analogical example, the sun dissipating the fog, etc. Purport is a very interesting, long purport by Srila Prabhupada, actually, very long. Commentary on this particular very, very important verse related to today's subjects. Because what separates us from this Shuddha Bhakti or Nanya Bhakti is our, attachments we have in our hearts, the various condition of our heart, whatever it may be. Ideas for different things, we discussed that last time. Desire for being recognized, desire for achievement, desire to get some reward, etc., become famous, or even more gross desires may be there, even in the course of our endeavoring to practice devotional service. All this can be dissipated in due course of time if we stick to faithfully serving the pure devotee of the Lord under his direction, not just according to our perception, according to his direction. Because that devotee is like the sun, and he can dissipate the darkness. He gives us the eyes whereby we can see. So I'm going to read a little bit from the purport. This is towards the end of the purport. Maybe it's the last paragraph or two. Last paragraph, I believe. We could read it. The whole purport is very long. Sinful life is due to ignorance, which means forgetfulness of one's constitutional position as an eternal servant of God. But when one is fully Krishna conscious, he realizes that he is God's eternal servant. It takes some time. And although, as this verse mentions, removes all of these agas, these sinful actions, desires therein, right down so they can never come back again. That means the roots are removed. We've all had that experience if you've ever done gardening. With weeds, you take the weed out, but if the root is still on the ground, the weed will grow up again. We're experiencing that no end of times here at Mayapur in France. But they grow up again. So one has to get the root out, or at least one has to destroy the root. As long as the root is there, the plant may grow up again. And by the watering process of devotional service, it's also understood that if we are maintaining weeds, at least roots of weeds in our heart, maybe not manifested yet on the surface, they will grow and they will result in the danger of curtailing, strangling, or at least diminishing the effect of the Bhakti-lata Bij, or the creeper of devotion. Very dangerous to cultivate weeds if we're on the path. Weeds meaning material desires. If we're on the path of spiritual life, Krishna conscious life. So it says here, this is due to ignorance. We're forgetting our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're still seeing ourselves separate from Him, separatist in devotional service, and consequently our devotional service is not of a pure nature. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami comments that bhakti may be divided into two divisions. Santata, devotional service that continues incessantly with faith and love. And don't forget, we're talking now something relevant to us. We may not be talking on the platform of pure devotees of the Lord, which we'll mention in a minute. Pure devotees, but not on the highest level. Kada Chitti, devotional service that does not continue incessantly, but is sometimes awakened. Incessantly flowing devotional service, santata, may also be divided into two categories. Service performed with slight attachment and spontaneous devotional service. So I'm going to mention this, it's the second one, but santata is basically what we're supposed to be doing under the direction of the pure devotee. Prabhupada, probably more than any other kind of generalized instruction on this, said always keep engaged in devotional service 24 hours a day. And we know from Bhagavad Gita, Mantra Yoga, Vicharan, Bhakti Yoga, and Sevati. Sukhanam Samti Chaitan Brahma Viya Kalpateta. One is engaged in full devotional service. It does not fall down in any circumstances. At once transcends the three modes of pure nature and comes to the level of Brahman. That's the result of full devotional service. And full devotional service doesn't mean, just occasional, like this kadachit ki is occasional, comes and goes. But santata means all the time. And even if we're not on that spontaneous level, as it says here, divided into two, service performed with slight attachment, which is basically vaidhi sadhana bhakti. It's not unalloyed attachment. It has conditions related to it. It's based on some other factors. It's not based on spontaneity and drive. Maybe an element of spontaneity, but it's not complete. Whereas spontaneous devotional service is complete. And then, because it will never stop, nothing interferes with it. It's the motive for Raganuga Bhakti or spontaneous devotional service is not the external situation, it's an internal one. So most of us are on the external platform and are affected by external circumstances. We become elated or become dejected or become whatever, according to different externals. And those externals may also be, you could say, manifested on the subtle plane of the mind also. External thoughts within the mind affect our flow of bhakti. We become morose or depressed or something like that, excited, due to various effects on the mental platform. But spontaneous devotional service is not dependent upon that. However, in the stage which we may be trying to cultivate this, and say we have a slight attachment, it means that we are fully engaged, but our attachment is not completely. There's still a tendency there. There is still a factor by external circumstances, but we carry on engaging in devotional service under the direction of a pure devotee of the Lord. We don't stop our service. In less advanced stage, in this maybe kadachit ki, one will give up one's devotional service if there is somebody offends you, or whatever it may be, or we're not getting the results we wanted, etc., etc. Our faith is not very strong. We're easily affected by that. Spontaneous devotional service, that doesn't happen. But sometimes in this beginning stage, we may also be challenged with that. So again, the association of those who are fixed in devotional service is imperative to help us to remain on that path of pure devotional service. As we see in the Nectar Devotion, pure devotional service, characteristics of pure devotion. And the first two characteristics of Kleshagni and Shubhada. Kleshagni means, like this verse here says, it removes a gun with its fancy Krashnina. It removes all the ugas, all the sinful reactions, right down to the root. Now that's pure devotional service, cuts it down, removes it to the root. Mixed devotional service does not. Shallow devotional service begins the process, but is not in itself complete. It's just not yet complete. Pure devotional service, when there's no mixture, completely removes all of these roots, so there's no chance of them growing up again. And we've all experienced that. We follow the regulated principles, stopping sinful activity, basically speaking, as much as we can. But then again, sometimes desires come up, something non-devotional comes up within us. Some roots are still there. They have to be eradicated, they have to be removed. It just takes time. It takes time. There's not something we should be depressed about or disheartened in any way. It just takes time. To the degree that we're taking devotional service seriously, and to the degree that we're taking material life seriously, the removal of these roots depends on that, basically. It depends on Krishna. But they're generally uprooted. according to our own association with pure devotional service. Basically, we're associating with pure devotional service. We may not be in the mood of pure devotional service, but the more we associate with pure devotional service, the service given by our brother pure devotees, the more we absorb ourselves in that, then the quicker this eradication of these dirty things within the heart will take place. We'll read on a little bit more. Intermittent devotional service that typically may be divided into three. Ragabhasamai, devotional service in which one is almost attached. Ragabhasas, Shunyasarut. Devotional service in which there is no spontaneous love, but one likes the constitutional position of serving. Anabhasarupa, a slight glimpse of devotional service. As for atonement, even if one's in this stage, as for atonement, if one has caught even a slight glimpse of devotional service, all needs to undergo prayaschita or atonement are superseded. It's a common thing that people consider that we have to do some pious activity to counteract our sins, etc. Materially speaking, that may be the case. But from the point of view, as we read the other day, last week sometimes, I don't know what time it was, but last week, I can't remember the verse, but there's that nice verse which we read, Devashi Bhutapnam Pitrinem, I can go reading that those who give up everything for the service of the Lord. Prabhupada said the same thing today. Those who give up everything for the service of the Lord, renounce everything, but for the service of the Lord, not for any other reason. They're no longer debtors to anyone. If we give up everything else, but we don't engage fully in the service of the Lord, and Prabhupada said that's very bad. We read in today's purport, all become entangled. So when is that complete? We may not be on that level. We can give up everything. We could, but we may not be yet at that level. So that's the idea, that one's completely surrendered to the Lord. For those who are not in this stage, maybe in this intermittent stage, or in a stage of Vaidhisatma Bhakti, where we've kind of given up everything, at least externally, but internally there's still maybe some other desires may be there. When it's called even a slight glimpse, there's no need of prayaschita, no need for atonement whatsoever, even in the beginning stages, because one is on the path of real atonement. Real atonement is not just a material balancing factor, it's the process which releases us from the cause of our, say, materialistic endeavors, the very cause itself, which is ignorance. Ignorance of identity, ignorance of who we are, ignorance of what it means even to realize who we are, ignorance of the ultimate goal, understanding who we are. It is completely more complete, at least this ignorance is there, and consequently, we're in this situation where we tend to forget and go up and down and so on and so forth. There's the ignorance which has to be removed, that has to be cut out. Now I'm going to quickly read from the Nectar of Instruction. Sorry, I didn't prepare it tonight, but if I can find the verse. Maybe 7, verse 7 maybe? Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Verse number 7 of the Nectar of Instruction. And there Rupa Goswami, Chat Krishna Nama Charitari Sitapya Vidya, Ito Patapta Vasanasya Narochikan, Kinvadavad Murinam Kalu Shaiva Dushta, Vadvikramat Bhavati Tat Gadamantri. The holy name, the character, pastimes and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. And in the verse, actually there's 2 words there mentioned, kintu adarat. So if we go to those words, anudina, 3 words, kintu adarat anudina. And we see a little bit more clearly, it means carefully, like carefully executing devotional service, very carefully, under the direction of a pure devotee. Not a speculative approach, but a careful approach. And anudinam. Anudinam, Prabhupada has translated it here every day, but in reality it means constant. 24 hours a day. Prabhupada also says here 24 hours daily. So that's not so. That's not quite so easy. We're not yet maybe quite on that platform. That's pure devotional service. That is Ananya Bhakti, in one sense, at the level of sadhana. This pure devotion, characteristics of pure devotional service appear on all three levels. On the level of sadhana, even in Vaidhi sadhana, when we're fully engaged. And as we mentioned just now, this is what Prabhupada would say again and again, just keep yourself engaged. Give me the 9th canto of Bhagavatam. Just keep yourself engaged 24 hours of the day. That's what Prabhupada, why he's given us this program. Why has he given us this program of morning, Mangalarti, getting up, taking a shower, attending Mangalarti, chanting the Shinidev, Tulsi Puja, Japa, maybe some reading, Guru Puja, daily greeting, class, prasadam with devotees, then straight into service, all day long service, evening program. This was Prabhupada's program, at least for those living in the temple, those living at home, of course, have other duties to do. But as much as possible, we'll keep engaged fully all day long whenever we have the time. Everything should not, in other words, we should be acting not under the influence of ignorance, but acting under the influence of Shuddha Bhakti, under the influence of pure devotion service. This is not plugged in. It's all very well having this, but the battery is just about to run out. You've got to stay plugged in, otherwise you run out, right? You've got to keep constantly plugged into devotional service, otherwise batteries will run out. And then there will be no need for a battery. We will be connected. We connect in this way through the pure devotee, through devotional service. And so here's a good example. And Prabhupada cites this example many a time. This is in the 9th canto, chapter 4, text number 18 to 20. 9, 4, 18 to 20. This is an example. Prabhupada gives many examples, of course, but Bhagavatam gives unending examples, practically. This is a famous example. This is the example of Maharaj Ambarish, Vaimana Krishna Padaravinda. It's very famous verse for Chanksi Vaikuntha Banana Varna name. This is 9th canto, chapter 4, text 18 to 20. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of the Lord, Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulsi offered to the Lord. He engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasadam. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord. His head in bowing down before the Lord, and all of his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service, in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. A very famous, very beautiful verse spoken here by Maharaj Ambarish, who was a pure devotee of the Lord. But he's showing us how to practice pure devotional service, even in the practice of sadhana. Sadhana basically means to engage our senses in the service, mind, body, senses, in the service of Krishna, at least in devotion, sadhana, practice sadhana. So that's the secret, to always be engaged in devotional service. And we're going to now, let's see if we finish side. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, now Bhagavad Gita is generally seen as more or less our preliminary script for giving us guidance in our devotional service. Again and again, this comes up in devotional service. And this pure devotional service comes up in Bhagavad Gita. And it's usually in relationship to our position in this world. You know, whatever you do, do it in consciousness of me. Do it, offer your fruits of all your work to me. It's all part of coming to pure devotion service on a high level. With pure characteristics of pure devotion service in sadhana bhakti, we discussed briefly. We discussed kleshagni briefly. Shubhada means it situates one in happiness, which is more happy or more pleasing than the happiness gained from other activities. Thus, one starts to lose one's attraction towards other activity. But then if you go a little higher, the happiness in Bhava Bhakti, we have Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. So in Bhava Bhakti, the pleasure is just so, you could say, overwhelming that it even derives the pleasure of Brahman, merging into the Brahman Jyoti. One even loses the interest in that. Anything other than devotional service of Krishna, there's no interest in it, even if it's offered. Mm-hmm. But on the topmost platform, there's not even thought of anything else existing, because one has realized one's constitutional position in relation with Krishna. So there's no interference of any kind. There's nothing to compare it with. It's like unalloyed steel. There's no mixture whatsoever. It's impenetrable. There's nothing else there to compare it with. But we're not on that level. At least I'm not. We're trying to practice devotional service on the level of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So at that level, the meaning is that we have, the more we develop our faith in the instructions of the pure devotee, the more we put our life and soul into trying to serve his instructions, then the more chance there is that this awakening, the awakening of our dormant love of Krishna will take place. This is the process by one who has complete faith. One who has this implicit faith. The more we develop this pure faith in the spiritual master and in Krishna, everything's revealed. All the importance of the Vedas, everything's revealed. It's not necessary to make a separate endeavor to understand and realize everything. It may be a part of our service to the pure devotee, but it's not imperative. Service to the pure devotee of the Lord is the secret of success in the spiritual life, as we just heard from the song of Bhakti. The pure devotee of the Lord will engage us in whatever is favorable, depending on our level of advancement of Krishna consciousness. That which will help us to come closer to unalloyed devotion service. Well, let's just read a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know. Markers all sliding and slipping on the pages here. Most of the references, but it doesn't matter. We can see in the 4th chapter, for instance, of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called Transcendental Knowledge. Let's just reread. Okay, here we go. Let's read a bit in the purport. This is, you don't need to go to it on the screen. This is from the 29th verse of the 4th chapter. Prabhupada writes, the Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, automatically becomes the control of his senses. And this applies specifically on our level. Because if we're engaged in service, chanting, hearing, remembering, worship, ninefold limbs of bhakti, whatever they may be, if we're fully engaged, then our senses are engaged. That's what it means. They can't be engaged in activity which furthers our implication in this world. Even if there is some subtle impurity there, some abhases there, we're not pure. But our senses are fully engaged. So the messages, the ideas, the messages that come into our minds will not create further implication in the material world. But they're related to Krishna. So we're trying to keep ourselves fully engaged. And if it's under the direction of pure devotee, it is actually transcendental. One who's situated in the boat of devotional service is considered liberated already. As long as we stay in that boat, we may not be experiencing the nature of liberation exactly, to some extent. But as long as we stay in that boat of pure devotional service, then we're considered to be in a liberated state, because there's not going to be any more entanglement or bondage in this material. It's just a matter of time before we kind of, let's say, rise above, the fog is dissipated, rise above the clouds, so to speak. Automatically, the senses, automatically becomes the control of the senses. His senses, being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have no chance to become otherwise engaged. Simple. If they're engaged in one thing, they can't engage in another. So that's our eyes, our nose, our tongue, our ears, our mind. our hands, our legs, every single organ of our body, we try to engage in Krishna's service. And then they can't be engaged in other activity. Otherwise, the tendency is, due to our past conditioning, due to ignorance, our tendency is to oscillate towards other activities. And again, association of devotees is very, very significant in this regard, because on our own, or let's say away from the association of devotees, for a neophyte devotee, it is very difficult. Krishna knows we're in a position we have no choice. He knows it's difficult, and he will certainly help us if we're sincere. But in general, the association devotees is absolutely imperative to help protect us from, the tendency. I was reading an interesting thing the other day. It wasn't necessarily from a devotional source, but it said honesty is who we are when there's no one else around, and what we do when there's no one else around. And also within our own hearts, nobody can see. Krishna can see. Sometimes some elevated souls may see, but what's going on in our own hearts, that's even more subtle. But let's just look at the externals, what we do when no one else is around. It's honesty. So to come to the platform of honesty means to follow the honest. To come to the platform of truthfulness, we have to follow truth. Not just somebody who's, let's say, they say fame amongst the infamous. Someone who's a thief amongst thieves. Maybe a very nice person amongst thieves, but he's still a thief. They're still in the material kingdom, they're still under ignorance. So it doesn't mean that, being truthful in ignorance. It means someone who knows the actual truth. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Panipatina Pariprashnaya Seva Upadekshati Jnana Jnaninas Tadvidarshan. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service, because the self-realized soul has seen the truth. He can impart that knowledge unto us. Your devotees, they've seen the truth. They know the truth. They're connected to the truth, so they can connect to us. Otherwise, someone else is only connecting us to them. They may be more, elevated than us, whatever it may be called. But they cannot connect us to the absolute truth unless they're connected. We have to stay connected to the absolute truth. So just one verse there from the Bhagavad Gita. Now, a few verses down from that is an interesting chapter where Krishna says in the 4th chapter there, after saying that, just try to approach a spiritual master, he says, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of misery. The boat of transcendental knowledge, this is the devotional service. This boat is made of bhakti, devotional service, which includes the sublims of knowledge and detachment. They come automatically, Vasudeva. Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Dhusha, that it comes automatically, Vasudeva, one who's completely surrendered, Narayana Prayana, one who's completely surrendered to the Lord, then Jnana Vairagya come automatically. They don't have to be a separate endeavor. One automatically acquires real knowledge and detachment from this world by engaging ourselves in pure devotional service. And these come automatically. So to situate ourselves basically in the boat of bhakti or devotion. And the next verse, Krishna says, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activity. They burn to ashes. One is in that position. They cannot. Ashes means there's nothing left to grow. There's nothing left. Not like broken or cut into pieces, but burned to ashes. Just like sometimes when there's a deadly snake and you kill the snake, that's not enough. One has to burn the body of the snake. There's a reflection, is there, in the eye of the snake, which will be picked up by its mate, etc. You have to burn, you have to be burned down to the root by being firmly fixed in the boat of devotional service. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. It's not like the knowledge or the pleasure that, say, some jnani or some speculator, some scholar may get from their, say, conditional knowledge or conditional understanding. This is an actual knowledge in terms of devotion, of experiencing the pleasures of connecting with Krishna through the means of devotional service. The Krishna is reciprocating through that method. As we become electrified when we touch an electric wire which is connected, the devotee, the closer we get, the less the interference is there, the more one will feel the current coming down from the Supreme Lord through the disciplic succession. And every living entity, there's no one is absolutely disqualified. It's a matter of the degree that we wish to connect ourselves, be connected to that spiritual current coming through the line of disciplic succession, which is manifested to us in the form of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and the other various components therein. But this is our connection, to connect with Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti under the direction of pure devotee of the Lord. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is quickly eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So by practicing this knowledge, one attains that knowledge. Well, what is that knowledge? Knowledge of one's constitution, knowledge of Krishna, knowledge of all variety. Ignorance, in other words, is removed. One attains that platform beyond the influence of ignorance. One can see, it's not just hearing about it. Yes, we hear in the Ishopanishad, for instance, the characteristics of the pure devotee of the Lord, how they see everything equally and how they treat every living entity equally, and so on and so forth. One who is transcendental to this world. Vidyahabhanaya Sampani Brahmani Gavihastim Shunichaya Vishwapakacha Pandita Samadarshi. They see equally all living entities. We can imitate that. Describes that this type of false imitation, this mundane philanthropy, does not really succeed. It doesn't go very far. This is a realization. It's not a question of just some sentimental imposition. It's a realization. That realization in the Upanishad is described can come when we follow somebody who has that vision. Somebody who's actually acting in that way and only engages in activities. Maybe it doesn't always seem like, because for a Madhyamadikari, a mixed devotee, one is on the mixed devotee, but one is on the second stage of devotional service, he does discriminate. But his discrimination is not based on his own condition, it's based upon others' condition. It's based upon the instructions of Shastra. It's based upon higher authority. It's not based on our own likes and dislikes, as in the neophyte states. It's based on likes and dislikes. Whereas in the middle stage, it's not based on that. It's based on the instruction of higher authority. So there's still some discriminations there. They don't necessarily see it. But by following that path, which is given by those unalloyed devotees, those pure devotees of the Lord, one can gradually become more and more clear, more and more purified, and see things for what they are, and see everything in relationship with Krishna. But to preach, there has to be some discrimination, because it's reciprocal with the world around us. This world is a world of discrimination, a world of duality. So not one is blind to that. But the consciousness of a pure devotee who sees beyond that, it acts on that platform. I'll read something else. Now, here in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 21, 22. Famous verse, not so famous. But the second one is nice. Bhaktya labhyastva nanyaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. First part is significant in this regard. He's attained by unalloyed devotion. He's not attained by mixed devotion, although that's, you could say, the path leading to unalloyed devotion, but it has to lead to unalloyed devotion. Just like we see in the 4th chapter, many different paths are mentioned for achieving transcendence. But if they don't come to this point of understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he's the Supreme Lord, they're simply almost a waste of time. When the Bhagavatam describes them, Shame Vikeva, basically a waste of time. The purpose of austerity, knowledge, of charity, of everything, of studying the scriptures, everything is to attain love of God, to understand who is Krishna and to love him. This is the real fruit of devotional service. It's not just exercise, it has a fruit. It's like you're growing a tree or growing a plant. You know, you usually have a purpose behind it. You don't just put it in the ground. Very nice. You hope to get a tree with fruits or nuts or something. Some fruit, some result, some benefit from it. It's going to be a devotional service. Ultimately, of course, it's a constitution of living, and you may not think like that, but at that stage, we should be getting some fruit of some kind, even if it's preliminary fruits like clay shagni or shubada. Something should be there. The Bible said, without a taste, even in the neophyte stage of devotions, it is very hard to carry on. There has to be some rasa, some taste there. Again, in the association of devotees, this rasa can be churned. It can be churned. If we hear and chant in the association of devotees, this taste can be churned. We can start to develop an attraction. We're hearing and chanting about Krishna. At least we're associating with someone who has an attraction, or for kirtan, or devotional services of various kinds, but that should also supplement our attraction for hearing and chanting. Attainable only by pure bhaktya ananyaya. Ananya bhakti, pure devotional service. It's the means of attracting Krishna. He's attracted by it. It's like water. You know, you say to someone, can you please bring me a cup of water? And they bring you this dirty, grimy looking liquid and say, here's a cup of water. We don't feel very attracted. We don't know what's in it. Maybe some insects floating in it. Some dust and dirt and some strange sort of slimy things inside it. We're not very likely to be inclined to drink it. Unless you're really on the last legs. You'll probably be on no legs after drinking it either. It's not attractive. When something's with crystal clear water, it's very attractive. Krishna's a taste in that water as well. Taste is there. But family devotional service, mixed devotional service, will be attracted to people who are mixed or want some mixed results to some extent. But it's not really attracting the soul. It's attracting the conditioned idea of who the soul is, but not the soul. The soul has to be attracted by purity, pure devotion. So if we want to realize the soul, our nature. So going to another verse now in the 9th chapter. 22 is again another famous verse. Ananyas chintiyanto mam yejana payapasate. Tesham nityat bhutanam yogishema vahamyaham. Famous verse. Those who always worship me with exclusive, the word here is exclusive, ananya, having no other object, concentrating, exclusively concentrating on me, totally. Ananya chintayanto mam. And meditating on my trance, to them, Krishna carries what they lack and preserve what they have. So even in our stage, when we're fully engaged in devotional service, we may never have realized our nature or God's nature or anything, but we're fully engaged in devotional service. Krishna guides the devotee. He guides him. You don't make a mistake when we're fully engaged in devotional service. If it's said to be a mistake, it's just a learning lesson, that's all. It's just another hand of the Lord removing some kind of false understanding within our hearts, egotistical, whatever it may be. But he's carrying what we have and preserves what we have and provides what we lack. Another verse. This is from the 9th chapter, text number 30. Actually, we just mentioned that, about committing sinful activities when still considered saintly, so we'll jump over that one. We're going now to the 11th chapter, text 54. Again, same words. Bhaktya Vananyaya Satya. Bhaktya means, obviously, devotional service. Ananyaya, without being mixed with anything else. Unmixed, unalloyed, pure devotional service. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am. Because Krishna is attracted. He rarely gives this unalloyed devotional service because he's captured by it. We see in the nectar of devotion, it's one of the characteristics of pure devotional service. It's rarely obtained because Krishna becomes obligated, captured, tied up by devotion, just like Mother Yasoda tied Krishna in rope because of her pure devotional service. It's on the highest level. But even on this level, if we please the pure devotee of the Lord, the same principle is there. Pure devotee of the Lord, like Srila Prabhupada, who sacrificed everything for spreading this Krishna consciousness movement, is most dear to the Lord. Krishna's words in Gita. He's the most dear servitor of the Lord. So one who's dedicated their life to trying to assist Srila Prabhupada also becomes most dear to the Lord, even though we may not be very qualified to say. I'll give an example. A man and his dog. If you love the man, you have to love the dog too. You can't say, I love you, I don't like your dog. Kick the dog over the wall, get out of the way. That certainly won't impress the man, that's for sure. But you punch you in the nose. And, so we have to love the dog, even if the dog isn't our best friends, whatever it is, because he's a dog of the man. So similarly, all the devotees who are trying to serve Srila Prabhupada, with all of our faults and all of our idiosyncrasies, nonetheless, every devotee who's trying to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission is very dear to Krishna, because we're trying to serve and please somebody who is most dear to Krishna. So, only those who are engaged in undivided devotional service can understand me as I am, standing before you, and thus can be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. This statement comes up in different ways in different places in the Gita. If we go to the 12th chapter, there's also a nice verse there. Again, Ananyena Eva Yogena Bhakti Yoga is there in this verse also. Ananyena Yogena. It meaning, basically speaking, devotional service without any division, unalloyed, no break, pure. So this verse, those who worship me, giving up all activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engage in devotional service, meditating on me, etc. Krishna delivers us. So at our stage, those who are on the topmost platform, this verse doesn't necessarily apply to them. There's no question of being delivered. It's like you get it from a postman and he delivers your letter. Once it's arrived, you don't ask the postman, can you deliver it, please? It's for when the letter has not reached its destination, you say you're delivering the letter. So for those on the topmost platform, this verse is specifically for us. Specifically, those who want to attain to that ultimate, to be delivered from this material world and go back to Godhead, to be engaged in full devotional service. And then we see another nice verse here in the 13th chapter. And this may be briefly referred to it earlier on, that those who are in the most important characteristic of devotional service, in this case, Christians calls it knowledge. It's the knowledge of how we can get out. The previous verse was describing the material characteristics of the material world, defining the various elements of this world to some degree, which most people consider knowledge. But Krishna declares knowledge of the material world to be avidya, ignorance. It's not real knowledge. Real knowledge is the means of getting out of it. So this 13th verse, 12th verse to 12, 8 to 12, describes the means of getting out of the material world. So that's called knowledge. It's not just some theoretical assimilation of facts and figures, data, etc. But it's that means which helps us to reach our goal, to go back to Godhead. So the most important or prominent aspect of that knowledge is again mentioned here. Mai ananya yogena bhakti avivicharini. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Constant and unalloyed devotion. Tall order, but that's the process of devotional service to try to keep ourselves fully engaged. I don't know where we are now. We're in the three modes of nature. Okay, we've already mentioned that verse, Yoga, Bicharana, Bhakti Yoga, and Sadhu. So there are so many verses. If you go to the 18th chapter, also the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, we can see there some of the major verses of that chapter. Summary, you could say, it's capturing all the essence of the Gita. If we go to text number 54, I think it is. No, 55. Bhakti-amam abhijanati. Bhakti-amam, pure devotional service unto me. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Lord, only by devotional service. So that understanding of Krishna. Without understanding Krishna as he is, we can't enter the kingdom of God. That understanding is given by Krishna. Desham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. To those who constantly devotion worship me, beloved, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. That understanding is the purity, which is the process of devotional service, as given by the pure devotees of the Lord. Okay, is there anything else? Ah, lovely. There's two more things I just mentioned. I think, well, let me just see this. Very nice to look at Prabhupada's books. There's a very nice section in the fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And regarding to Prahlad Maharaj, when he was offering his prayers, it's described everywhere, Ananya Bhakti Yogena, same words coming up again and again. Uninterrupted and unflinching devotional service. He offered his prayers in this way. Therefore, we can repeat those prayers. That's why it's very good to repeat the prayers of those who have come or on this level of Ananya Bhakti, this pure level of devotion. We can say our own prayers, which are inevitably mixed with various motivations, maybe not always so close to Krishna's desire. That's pious, but it's not transcendental. When we repeat the words and the prayers of those who are absolutely transcendental, like Prahlad Maharaj, then the effect is just associating with those devotees, following in their footsteps, etc. It's interesting, Srila Prabhupada, let's see, in the teachings of Lord Kapila, Prabhupada on the verse which we read today, as far as I know, Prabhupada commented that the word Ananya Vishaya I think so. Are we back on? Are we on? Okay. So this is the third canto, 29th chapter. And again, it's explanation. Lord Kapila continues explaining devotional service. He's just explained devotional service in the various modes of nature. Devotional service in the modes of nature means the living entities, according to the mode they're in. They have different objectives, different desires. It may be free me from suffering. It may be achieve my material goals. It may be so many things. Just satisfy me. It's got an element of satisfy me involved in it. The pure devotional service goes stages further. So if we go to text 12, the manifestation, third chapter, 29th chapter, third canto, chapter 29, text number 12. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. You ever notice that sometimes we're sitting and someone's reading, our mind is going somewhere, I've got something else to do. You know, so many things we drift away from the subject matter of the hearing and chanting about Krishna. The mind is always, because our mind is still affected, still colored, Kalatmika, it's still affected by the modes of nature. And we drift off sometimes, and maybe then physically we disappear somewhere. That's enough. I can't hear anymore. We're not on an unalloyed platform, and it's an austerity to say subject oneself sometimes. But sometimes we get very enlightened too, so there's a bit of this up and down. Manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. And look, Dave goes on how pure devotional service has no other, there's no, like sometimes you want a river, you go down the sideline, tributary, whatever. You stop off. A pure devotional service doesn't stop, it flows uninterrupted towards the ocean, just like Queen Kunti says in the first canto, chapter 8, she says in text 42, O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Because, you know, she was attached to a family or a dynasty and so on. Although they were all devotees, you know, still there was some familiar attachment there, just pure. So she wants now nothing, just attachment to you, my Lord, nothing else. And that's what we could say at our stage, what we're aiming at. Of course, there's more than that beyond. But Perfection of pure devotion as a service is attained when all attention is diverted towards the transcendental loving service of the Lord. All attention. It would be nice, wouldn't it? We have so much attention elsewhere. Yes, Srimati Kunti wanted to serve the Lord without diversion. And that was her prayer. She's praying for it. And her prayer is unalloyed. It's in the mood that we heard of Prahlad Maharaj. Pure mood of prayer. So we repeating these prayers. We may develop this mood. This unalloyed devotion is the ultimate goal of life. This is our goal of life. To come to this platform of Ananya Bhakti and then whatever else comes after that. Shuddha Bhakti. Through chanting the holy name attentively and carefully and as much as we can under the direction of the pure devotee. And the process, Prabhupada was asked, how do we reach this platform? Prabhupada said, you reach the platform by following the process. You don't make up your own process. We follow the process, chanting and hearing as given to us by the pure devotee of the Lord. That pleases Krishna, and thus Krishna removes from our heart impediments on our path. We have all kinds of impediments may be there. We may not even know that we may not recognize them, even accept them, they're impediments, because we don't know beyond it. We only know what we've experienced and what we hear, we believe or don't believe. We don't have that conviction necessarily. We have to remove anything which is an obstacle to the pleasure of Krishna. The pure devotee, they are always acting in this way to help release us from these obstacles. All these barriers, this fog, which is covering our consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I guess it's 7:20. I don't know what time it is where you are, but we were at 7:25 in the evening. So, some questions maybe there? Hare Krishna, thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. We're just now waiting for questions or comments to come in. Maybe some will come. And see you all. It's very nice to see the devotees. Thank you for being with us this evening. And we're planning to be on Saturday morning, although I can't guarantee that because I have an appointment Saturday morning. I'll work that through with Rasita Nanda. And I actually have an appointment. It may be difficult. Let's see. Nothing is impossible. Any questions? Comments? Excuse me. Hare Krishna, everyone in America, in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and Philippines, and Holland, and France, and America, of course, we go up there, and in countries in Latvia, and in England, here and there. Hare Krishna, India, everywhere else, Europe, different countries. Czech Republic, I can see Czech. Malaysia. So are there any questions? Anyone like to type in some questions? You're welcome. We'll just chat for a few minutes and then see if any questions come. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, here's a question or two. If another devotee falls from the path or off the path of devotion, how do you help them get back? Well, this is one of the reasons men have seekers and ladies have long hair. You grab them by the seeker. Lord Chaitanya did that with Kala Krishnadas when he fell away. He grabbed him by his seeker and pulled him back. So it may not be as easy as that. That sounds rather, you could say, simplistic and impractical, maybe, especially if you don't have much of a seeker. Maybe even get into legal problems. How do we bring them back? This is a very nice meditation. Well, we have to have a desire first of all. We ourselves have to realize that the physician heal thyself. How fixed are we on the devotional path? So the first thing is that generally a devotee, when somebody leaves the path of devotion, thinks that that sincere soul is gone. And we look at our own hearts. Maybe I didn't relate to them nicely. Maybe I didn't serve them as nicely as we could, didn't encourage them, whatever. My impurities may have interfered with our endeavors. We look at ourselves, first of all. Well, we feel, how fallen am I? We try to ourselves to rectify our own tendencies in that direction, if we can. And then in terms of the actual endeavor to bring them back, well, we try to keep in touch, try to encourage. Don't just get on their case. You nonsense, you rascal, you envious fool, whatever it is. Generally speaking, that doesn't work very well. But we encourage them at any time to come back with kind words, encouraging behavior, gifts, prayers. Sometimes you may be able to even meet. Sometimes, but just being very encouraging to come back. It depends, and people go away for different reasons. Sometimes they're philosophical reasons, and that's maybe a little bit different. You may have to be a little bit more philosophically astute to convince them otherwise. But in most cases, it's not so much. There are some, of course, but not so much. It's usually emotional reasons that devotees leave, unfulfilled material desires. Perhaps they committed offenses in the association of devotees of some kind or another. They can't throw off, they feel guilty because of their material conditioning. Maybe they got mistreated, they feel they got mistreated, they're being exploited, all kinds of different kinds of self-centered reasons we may leave the active service of devotional service. We have to bear in mind that generally a person has some reason for leaving, and it's usually based upon some ignorance of some kind or another, always based on some kind of ignorance. So ignorance is overcome with knowledge, but knowledge is not just some philosophy or some theory, it's a matter of behavior. So right behavior, sincere behavior which is becoming a Vaishnava, we should try to cultivate, develop behavior which is very attractive. And Prabhupada said nobody will leave. If everything is very attractive, devotees are sincere, etc., we're not motivated by material purposes, etc., or desires to control or exploit others. In the mood, it has to be of service. So the more we cultivate this mood, our business is to serve, whether the devotee is living in the association or not living in the association. Our business is to serve. Our business is always, how can I serve this living entity? And Krishna will reciprocate, because everyone's a little individual, but Krishna will reciprocate to give us the knowledge, the way that we can actually serve that devotee or serve those devotees in a way which is beneficial and pleasing to them. The mood of service, how I can serve them. We're keeping in touch and some interaction of gifts, maybe some correspondence, maybe some prayers, maybe some visits, and so on and so forth like that may help. Another one? Pure devotion service seems so far away. How to not lose hope? Well, as we said, that pure devotion service in its ultimate state is prema bhakti, but we follow a prema bhakti, excuse me, by following. It's right here with us now. It's not far away at all. It's as far away as the holy name. It's as far away as the Bhagavatam. It's as far away as devotion service itself. It depends how close we are to those manifestations of pure devotional service. The closer we get to the holy name, the more we'll be situated on the platform of pure devotional service. Even if the mind is wandering, we still continually, as Krishna explains in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, bring the mind back under the control of the self. The mind will wander as long as we have a mature body, because we're coming from the Nitya Bhava category. We have so many other ideas in our minds and hearts. So we keep bringing it back onto Krishna. This is the method that we can come to associate with pure devotional service and not become despondent or depressed. When the mind wanders, we take it positively. This is an opportunity to take shelter of Krishna. When danger comes along, people call for help, maybe the police or some strong person to help them. So similarly, when these are danger, we want to see it like that. These various desires that come into the mind are dangers. We take shelter of the holy name. We take shelter of Krishna. That means we're taking shelter of pure devotional service. We may not have taken complete shelter, but we're on the path of practicing, taking shelter of the holy name. We just keep practicing. Pure devotional service is right with us. It's just that we have to get there with pure devotional service. And the method of realizing that is this Kimbhadra and Nudina, to chant carefully as we can and regularly as we can. Next one. Hare Krishna. It is often the case that we're not easily able to see what's blocking us from advancement. Of course, I think we mentioned that earlier. We were so conditioned to it when you're in the clouds. When you're born into a prison, you don't know anything else outside the prison. It's a matter of relativity within the prison. And we don't know what is beyond the prison. We don't know what's beyond the clouds. So it's a rather, speculative. You could say, what is pure devotional service, etc., etc. And we don't know what the goal is, so to speak. We don't know what's blocking it, because we don't know what the goal is beyond the block. So we hear from somebody who does. That's the process. And they give us directions. If we're lost, we take directions. They give us directions. What is blocking our pure devotional service? Or the awakening of that pure devotional service. They give us directions. And they're not just they alone. The Lord is working through other living entities as well. Everyone is a part of them. Knowingly or unknowingly, the Lord is always guiding the wanderings of living entities. And He's also giving us this chance to learn. He's making arrangements to help release us from our attachment to the blockages. Sometimes by frustrating our endeavors to enjoy the blockages or achieve the blockages. He's taking them away. This is probably many times these verses are quoted. Yashaham, Anuvinami. I've forgotten the whole verse, but Prabhupada quotes the verse quite a few times. How Krishna, when He's very kind to his devotee, takes away those things which the devotee may be attached to. He takes them away to release the devotee from becoming entangled in this world. We may not like it, but Krishna is doing His part, so to take these things away. We may fight against it, so we stay stuck in the world sometimes for quite a while until we wake up and let go. Let go. But by the association of devotees, and by the hand of the Lord, and by our own experiences, we may begin to recognize what is obstacles by hearing from Scripture, of course. We should try to apply the Scripture injunctions to ourselves, not just preach them to others. To see them within our own hearts and to pray to the Lord to please remove these obstacles on my path. Please remove these unfavorable tendencies which I have. Please remove them and try to associate with those who don't have unfavorable tendencies, or at least not so much as we do. Next one.
To what extent is it appropriate to see the spiritual?
To what extent is it appropriate to see the spiritual master as a father? Is this material sentiment, or is there some and deeper meaning of it. As a father, well, again, it depends what we mean by father, I guess. If we see our father as our mere order supplier, which many people see God as, or see the spiritual master as, it is, in one sense, if we take it to the extreme, correct, is the pure devotee of the Lord can deliver us what we really want. But if we're just seeing him as, oh, my Guru Maharaj, please, I need money. Oh, Guru Maharaj, oh, please, I need a wife. I need a husband. Please help me with this material issue. Always people giving me so many problems, Gurudev. Please do something about it. Please, I have a toothache, Gurudev. Can you please solve my problems? This type of thing, we may be in a neophyte stage, but that's not the business of the spiritual master. It might be the business of a mundane father, but it's not the business of the spiritual master. The spiritual master's business is to release us from that, from being dependent on these things and thinking these are the results of devotional services. I have money, I have this, I have that, so on. They're not. They're not at all. The spiritual master's business is to release us from this world entirely. Well, it's meant to be Guru Shishat Svajano Shishat. One's supposed to, even if one's a father. One shouldn't be a father unless one is able to deliver one's children from this material world. That's not usually the case. In fact, the father himself is not delivered. So in most cases, the father is very entangled in this world. So it depends how we see it. So if we look at it from the spiritual point of view, you could say like that in one sense, like a father. You could, but ultimately Krishna is our father. He's the one who says, I am the father of all living entities. He's the real father. The spiritual master is one who introduces us to our real father. But we may treat him like that. We may treat him as the representative of God on earth, etc. Or like that. A mentor. Next one. What's it? Question. If I may only, again. How to understand fear to do Harinam Prasad distribution on the streets during Corona times? Is it lack of faith, and should we overcome this? What is an intelligent thing to do? And does that mean we are not really serving? Well, this is one of those questions at the moment, which of course is a little throughout the world of it, not just ISKCON, of many groups, I would imagine. It's a question mark. And it's the inner heart which counts. Externally, there may be logical reasons, realistic reasons why one may not go out. It may not be due to fear, it's due to common sense. There's a difference between being afraid and being realistically or using one's common sense. If it's out of fear, then it depends on the nature of the fear. If it's fear, for instance, for the other people, or fear for other devotees, fear of something like that's one thing. If it's fear that, oh, I might get sick, or I might, maybe I'll get arrested, maybe this or that, that's a slightly different thing. Being a little bit more self-centered, you could say. But at the same time, it has to be common sense. Now, if it's, the body doesn't belong to us, the body belongs to Krishna. So we have to use our common sense not to unnecessarily go into risky situations. If it's necessary, we do. If it's many devotees have been distributing huge amounts of prasadam during the pandemic around the world, huge amounts, but they take precautions. I think that's the motto in many countries. Be careful, just be careful. Take precautions. Take precautions. And you can see by the nature of the people in a particular country, and we know in many places they're not taking it so seriously, perhaps as the government would like them to do, for whatever reasons. Perhaps they can't do much about it anyway. But we should take cautions. We're here to preach. The whole world is infected. The whole world is a dangerous place. The whole world is, in one sense, is a constant pandemic. We're locked down in this world permanently, in one sense. So preaching in any situation is, in that sense, can be fearful or dangerous. This is just one situation. Just like today, I just looked at the statistics today. More people committed suicide today than died of coronavirus. More people died of AIDS. More people, what to speak of abortion, 50 times more people died of abortion, or 100 times. And so many other things died more of this, that, and the other. So many things people are dying of, are infected by. We take precautions. No matter what it is, we try to take precautions so we don't become infected by what we don't want to be infected by. We shouldn't have a fear of preaching. We just should have a little common sense for what would be beneficial and pleasing to Krishna, pleasing to the spiritual master, and beneficial to all of us. We have to use a little common sense, how the people will react, how it will be seen, etc., etc. But not that we become so cautious that, one person may be upset, therefore we better not do anything. Always one person will be upset. Always. Preaching is like that. But common sense should be executed. We take advice from local senior devotees if it's a localized thing, that we don't act whimsically or against others, etc., against our authorities in spiritual life, etc. We should try to work cooperatively, but in the heart we should be cultivating this fearlessness to preach. Next one. But what stands between our belief in spiritual teachings, recognition of their truth, and our increasing genuine internalization, living of such teachings? How to move in this direction? I'm going to have to try to ascertain this question a little more. What stands between our belief in spiritual teachings, or recognition of their truth, and our increasing genuine internalization? Okay, what stands between it? In one sense, nothing. In another sense, we could say our adherence or our faith, our practice of the, use the word belief, let's use the word practices here instead. Practice is given by pure devotees, by scripture, Sadhu, Shastra, Sadhu. What stands between that and their internalization? Well, what is internalization? Is when our heart becomes softer, when our heart becomes more enriched, becomes fuller in consciousness of Krishna, when there's no other desires there other than to please Krishna's will. So what's stopping us? In most cases, and there are many factors, anarthas on the path, obstacles on the path, are described in various places by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the other day with the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, Gundicha Marjana, and different obstacles on the path which have to be removed, so that impurities. And in that pastime of Gundicha Marjana, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is cleansing the heart by sweeping out all the straws and all the pieces of dirt and dust. And then he goes for finer pieces of dirt and dust, removing the subtle attachments from the heart. And then the washing of the temple by intensive hearing and chanting about Krishna, so that there's no more weeds to growing there. It's only the bhakti lata which grows in the heart. And Prabhupada says how Krishna wants to sit in the heart of the devotee, but he only sits in the heart of the devotee who has a pure, cleansed heart. So the practice of devotional service, or the beliefs, whatever you wish to call it, the methodology is the means, if properly executed, to the degree that we execute it, which cleanses the dirt from our heart, so the internalization becomes manifested, so it starts to happen. Otherwise, we're still acting on the platform, the mental and physical platforms. It doesn't go beyond that. It's just a matter of adjustment within the mind, favorable and unfavorable situations according to my condition. We have to go beyond that. So devotional service is not always seemingly to be favorable or unfavorable according to my condition. It's an activity which is to help free us from that condition, not facilitate that condition. So this is the point. So to the degree that we accept the necessary medicinal rectification, you could say, or renovation of our mentality, that the internalization can be expected to evolve. Next one. Pam Ho, somebody on Pam Ho. I just closed my Pam Ho account today, by the way. Not that's not related to it. Pam Ho. I am very grateful. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we all have to do this. It's a daily factor. We have to really check ourselves and see if we're what track we're on. Which track are we on? You know, we may be, we may have the flag of devotion waving away there, but we may not be on the devotional track sometimes. We're on the me track or the you track, or this track, the Amtrak. I Amtrak. If you're in New York, you have the Amtrak. I Amtrak. we're on some other track, some mixed track there. We won't get to the final stop. We'll have to get off somewhere on the journey, So we do have to check ourselves sometimes. We get off, and there's other people on the station. We think, oh, this is great. Oh, there's all these people similar to me. This is a good place. But we're all conditioned. We haven't reached the goal. We don't just want to be on a track which just facilitates our conditional nature, just keeps us somewhere between here and there. We want to reach there. We want to reach the ultimate goal, bhakti, love of Godhead. And so we have to check ourselves daily and see, maybe that's my false ego. I'm trying to impress people. Maybe it's my false ego. I'm trying to maintain my hidden agendas. Maybe it's my false ego. I'm getting upset when another Krishna through this person is pointing out my shortcomings, and I start to react in a rather negative way, and I either avoid them or angry or whatever it may be, etc., etc. Yeah, we have to check ourselves. We check ourselves against Guru Shastras. Sadhu Lord Chaitanya also checked himself with Ishvara Puri when he was also questioning his own devotion in a different way to what we may question, but the principle is the same. We have to be willing to be checked, willing, checklist. We all, other things that are important to us in our life, we're constantly checking them. People spend so much time to check to see if we're doing it properly, if we're achieving our goals. And if we don't achieve our goals, something's wrong. We have to make an adjustment. So yes, we have to do some checking. Don't be lazy. Check and see. Hare Krishna. Well, that looks like it, is it? Well, it's fantastic. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Everybody, wherever you are, Hare Bol. I can see who are. Oh, wonderful to see all the devotees there. And where else have we got? Germany. I can see Germany. Where else are we? I can see who the others are. Oh, there we are. So, I don't know. A few more. Maybe Ireland. I think so. America, USA. Oh, wonderful. We said all the other countries. New Zealand, I missed one on that one. I think that's it. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Jai Gaur Gopal. Hare Krishna. Haribol. Everybody. India. So Vasikananda will let you know the next time, because I do have an appointment on Saturday morning. I may not be able to make it, but it'll be sometime at the weekend. We'll let him know, or you can ask him. He can do a survey or whatever, but sometime. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By the way, I had a tooth pulled out the other day. I had a tooth extracted. They had to take the root out. You see, it won't grow again now. The root's been taken out. When the root comes out, sometimes it's a little bit painful, isn't it? It's sometimes a little bit painful, and sometimes it's very painful. So there might be a little bit of, objection there sometimes when our roots are being tugged. We don't like to let go there, We become a little attached over millions of lifetimes to some of those roots. It's not so difficult for the ones on the surface. The ones in the roots, they're a little bit harder. They do sometimes they do have a little bit more of a reaction. But ultimately you're relieved. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We're doing farm protection and cow protection. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Before I forget, please everybody, please continue to pray for His Holiness Bhakti Churu Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Haribo. Let's hear everybody.